Hey everyone, I'm Russ Hamilton from Keepers of Chaos. All of my Keepers of Chaos out there. This video is dedicated to you guys, but most especially to those of you at Multnomah County Sheriff's Department up there in Portland, Oregon, as well as Joseph Wyatt. So anyway, Joseph wanted to talk a little bit about, how helpful he found it, talking about, kicking trash cans and just kind of using that as a feeler. I'm guessing as weighted. I mean, I've done that 1,000 times myself in order to find this, inmate manufactured pruno, aka alcohol, and so forth. And it's a great tip. It's something that you should be doing all the time in order to make that interdiction. I don't think I can stress strongly enough just how important it is to try and cut down on the alcohol. Alcohol is one of the most dangerous things that we face, actually, and most of the times we don't even know it. And sometimes when things happen to us, we don't even realize that alcohol has been involved. So rather than just, take this and just talk about it at the tactical level, I'm going to talk about it a little bit more at the strategic level. Because after all, if the point of this is to stop alcohol, then we have to do things in that more comprehensive mode. We have to be learning how to think critically. And that's what I'm here for, after all, is to teach you all how to think critically, how to think strategically, and how to act tactically. So let's go into it a little bit. Let's talk about inmate manufactured alcohol. All right. So there's a couple other forms of alcohol that we sometimes deal with: smuggled and non-conventional. Smuggled is obvious, right? Every once in a while you'll find a container, or some nurse or teacher or officer will bring something like that in. Kind of not very common, but I've seen it. Also, we've got non-conventional. Non-conventional in this day and age of COVID, bringing in all this hand sanitizer, whether it's yourself or whether it's your department, they can take this stuff, and the gelatin, they can just take and drop salt into it. And when they drop that salt into it, salt does not dissolve in alcohol, and so they can drink it very readily. Mostly, though, what we're talking about today, though, is the actual number 2 here, which is manufactured, right? And so across the country, pruno, that's in California, right? It's also, strangely enough, in Connecticut and now a few other places. I just found it strange that at one point it was mostly just California and Connecticut, which are, miles apart from each other. Also heard it referred to as buck, julep, hooch, jump, what have you, right there. This is the most important thing about inmate manufactured alcohol right here is sugar, right? The reason for that is the little yeasty fellows, they take and they eat sugar and they shit alcohol, okay? So that's your chemistry lesson for today, as it were. So in talking about, actually stopping this stuff, yeah, check all those places. The garbage cans are easy to do. Also laundry bags, they'll hide it in blankets and things like that. Stuffed up sometimes into lights and vents and any place they can kind of keep it warm, because the warmer they keep it, the faster those yeast are able to grow and divide and then, eat more sugar, shit more alcohol. So talking about the more comprehensive approach, talking about the more strategic approach to this, we have to attack the one thing that's really needed here, which is that sugar, right? So inside your kitchens and chow halls and stuff like that, tomato paste, ketchup, any kind of fruit that's in heavy syrup, those can all be sources for that sugar. We have to control that and never let it out the doors. Sometimes that means a lot of extra pat downs. Sometimes it means that we have to be in there and actually going around to those areas and searching them, because sometimes they'll pre-stash it and pre-hide it, and wait for officers not to be there or other staff not to be there so they can smuggle it out in some fashion. So that's really important. The other thing too is you shouldn't be giving these guys any packaged sugar or any or even any unpackaged sugar. If your particular facility is doing that, they're wrong. All right, I'll tell any of them that. It's real easy to get on these inmates and prisoners these days. But remember, this is for their safety too. Yeah, we end up in the tussle a lot. but they end up in the fights and sometimes riots and stuff over just some really brave drunk people. So there's that aspect of it. If we can control that sugar, we can control just about everything. Same thing with juice. I used to have this one chow hall. I used to feed 500-600 people in there every single day. And the part about it that was hard is they would give these guys juice. And so we just made a point of it. You know what? Everybody's going to pull up their pant legs. Everybody's going to either get patted down or have to pull up their shirt and at least turn around. And we'd be watching for it. And that actually made a difference. And yes, it's a hassle. Yes, it's a lot of extra work. But in the end, I think it's ultimately worth it. The other thing, that they have to have in order to manufacture this stuff is bags. It's almost always in bags. They try and do too much of it at a time to just put it in small things, but that can be an issue too. But so your trash bags that are going to end up in those trash receptacles anyway, one thing you can do is you can punch those things through and make every bag leaky. Is that going to stop them from using it? No, but it's going to slow them down, and it's going to have to make them put in extra effort. Anything we can do to make them put in extra effort, extra time, is going to slow them down to a point where we're going to be more in control of the process. So that's one thing. There's probably a lot of other things that you can think of that's going to help slow them down as well. But those are just a couple of the things that I've come up with. The other thing that I'll say really quick is if there's any doors or closets or something that have some kind of locked door on them that the inmates can't get into, or at least you think they can't get into, they can often take these bags and they flatten them way down, take all the air out, and they can roll them up underneath there. And as long as they have a tube or something that they can put in there as a burper to keep that gas down, then they're able to roll it back out. So watch out for that too. And I hope you found this useful. But you know what? The amount of knowledge that I have needs to be built upon. You guys know exactly what your facilities are like. You know how the inmates are doing these things. You know how they're processing. So you're in a better position to actually figure out, potential ways to counter the inmate alcohol problem. And so I hope you've enjoyed this video. Again, going out to you guys there in Multnomah County, and specifically Joseph Wyatt, who asked that this video be made. One last thing, I'll just talk about general contraband, not so much the alcohol part of it right now. But as you're making your rounds, sometimes you'll discover, pruno or whatever else just off of body language. So you want to look for a couple of things, and those are extremes, right? So, and this is a pretty powerful thing to think about if you'll just inculcate it into the way you do business. When you're making your way, especially through dorms, anytime the amount of volume suddenly decreases or increases, right? Two ends of the spectrum there. There's a good chance that some kind of contraband is out, and perhaps you can find it. The other thing is anytime you see a guy that's out and he suddenly walks away from an area, he probably doesn't have it. It's probably in the area he walked away from. That's what human body language does, is he's trying to distance himself from it. Now, he could have it on him still, or he could have part of it on him, especially if it's drugs or pruno or something like that. But we want to look for that. A sudden breakout of a fight, that's a distraction. That's a diversion, right? And do we have to deal with that? Yes, we do. But we also want to keep in mind that, once we dealt with that fight and cuffed a couple people up, it's time to come right back there and start hitting that, because there's a chance that that was all done to protect something probably being secured by some kind of STG, aka gangs, if you're not familiar with that STG term yet. So, and the last thing I want to say is, on the other end of that spectrum, just that sudden furtive movement or somebody freezing in place. Again, anytime you have two things on the opposite end of the spectrum, that can be an indicator of contraband. So anyway, guys, take care. I hope you found this useful, or I hope you at least found it inspiring. Man, I can't tell you enough that there's a whole lot of alcohol that's caused a whole lot of heartache for us, getting hurt, maybe, even a few instances that I'm not sure of, losing a life or something. Take care, guys. Stay safe. Don't let complacency bite you in the ass.